Welcome to our kitchen. I'm Jim Gullickson. Everybody calls me Gully. This is my wife, Shannon.
Hello.
And I actually have a part-time gig at River 105. I do a 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. shift on weekdays and entertain and talk about things that are going on in my world. And other than that, I play a lot of golf because I'm kind of retired. Shannon still works for Greater Mankato Growth. You want to tell about that?
Sure, I'm kind of getting closer to retirement too, but I do some things that I'm really passionate about at Greater Mankato Growth, and one is I run a 9-month leadership program called Greater Mankato Leadership Institute for people in our community to learn more about the community and also become better leaders. And I also run a program called the Executive Sounding Board, and that's a newer program for Greater Mankato Growth. And we have small groups of executives that meet on a monthly basis and really become better acquainted with each other, their resources to each other. And it's just a program for them to, again, get to know other peers in the community and share some things that maybe they can't share with other people within their company. It's really lonely at the top, as they say.
And we both also do some volunteer things in the community, and would like to take a moment to just mention that if you want to help out during this pandemic, you can text the word community to 833-892-4192, or just donate to the COVID-19 Community Response Fund. And thanks for your assistance and for your help with that. I know we're going to make a donation.
Yes, we are.
While you're making potatoes.
Sure, and that Community Response Fund is actually a partnership between the Greater Mankato Area United Way and also the Mankato Area Foundation Board. And I am a board member of the Mankato Area Foundation, and I'm really thrilled that they have donated over $125,000 so far to nonprofit community organizations that have been hurt during this time. They cannot collect fees for a lot of the programming that they're not able to offer right now, but they still have staff and they still have needs that they're trying to fill. So please donate, and again, thank you so much for anything that you can give.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, we should probably get to the moment at hand, which is, what are we gonna make, right? So our entree today is going to be lamb chops. And I'll get into sort of the history of that with my family and so forth, but this is not an everyday kind of meal, not an every week kind of meal. This is really kind of a treat.
Special family meal.
Yes, yeah. It's very much a treat. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but one of the things that we thought we would pair it with is the way we like to prepare baked potatoes. And since that's gonna take the longest, you get to start.
The other two items that we're making in addition to lamb, like Gully mentioned, are baked potatoes and also asparagus, because that's a really, it's in season right now and it's a really easy thing to make, and I like it. My husband, not so much, but I got to choose the sides. So baked potatoes, and I'm gonna tell you why a little bit later, why we're making these. They're pretty basic. Doesn't take a lot of work to make a baked potato, but I take olive oil in my handy dandy Rachel Ray olive oil dispenser. Put it on our potato. We want it to get nice and crispy because we like to eat the skin of the potato, also the whole thing. Sorry, my hands are a little greasy. And then we put some sea salt on, and that gives it a nice little flavor. And then we put it in the oven for an hour at 400. That's all it is right now. Let those little guys go, and then Gully is going to work on the lamb next.
All right, well, I am going to work on the lamb next, and I'm going to get rid of this, grab this, and I hope I'm putting this in the right spot. I hopefully get a nice shot of this. These are lamb chops. Now, lamb chops, that's a little bit of family history. I grew up eating lamb, whether it was leg of lamb or rack of lamb or lamb chops. I grew up eating lamb as not a regular thing, but as a treat growing up, and never thought anything of it. I thought everybody did that. I've since found out in my adulthood that not a lot of people eat lamb. They're maybe, they don't maybe know how to prepare it. Yeah. Your family didn't growing up, and so there are really essentially a couple of flavors that I love with lamb. One is rosemary, and the other is mint, and specifically mint jelly. But somebody around here decided they were going to do a corner on the market for mint jelly, and there's no mint jelly to be found. So we're going to punt, and we're going to make a mint sauce, and it'll be great. It's just different than what I had envisioned because they don't have any mint jelly.
One thing about mint jelly is you've probably seen it in the section with all of the jellies and jams. and not knowing, what do you do with that? It is green, it's in a jar, and it's just a jelly, made with mint and a lot of sugar. So we looked all over. We could not find it in Mankato right now, but it is a really, that's probably the only thing I know what to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're going to put it on a
Right.
peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? But if you see mint
Does
jelly at the
taste
store
really good.
and you
Yeah.
want to try lamb, buy some mint jelly. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I do have fresh rosemary from our herb garden, but I am, for this recipe, going to use a crushed dried rosemary for the simple reason that it's just easier. And not everybody has fresh rosemary laying around, so we're going to just do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just drizzle a little bit of olive oil on these. Now, they're very rich, so they don't need a lot of extra fat, but I wanted to do a little bit of olive oil on here so I could add a little bit of stickiness to this. So the salt and the pepper. I need the pepper, honey. Would you get me the pepper?
Sure. And one of the things is people will look at those and say, that's all you're giving me is one or two of those, but they are incredibly rich that it really does make, about 2 per adult is enough, and they're really nice and thick usually.
Mm-hmm. We like a coarse ground pepper, sort of restaurant-style ground pepper, but whatever you like is fine.
You're far less likely to sneeze when you use this stuff.
This is true.
Right?
This is true. So I'm just sprinkling a little of the rosemary on there, and then I'm just going to do the same thing on the reverse side, and then they're going to be ready to go on the grill in just a few minutes. But before we get to the grilling part of this, just one second. Before we get to the grilling part of this, I am going to show you about our special cocktail that we're doing with this. So, and I believe you have some wine. Do you want to get started on opening the wine? So
I have a Pinot Noir that goes really well with lamb, I think, because it's much lighter and it is not going to overpower the flavor of the lamb. I had it in the refrigerator just for about a half an hour or so because I like my Pinot Noir a little bit chilled. And I'm opening it up with one of my favorite kitchen tools, and that is my foil cutter from Williams-Sonoma. Makes a nice clean cut. We have our rabbit. Easy way to open the wine. And then my wine glasses. Where did they go?
Oh, I got them.
Here they are.
Oh, okay, you got them.
I like these little guys because they're from, I can't say because it's an out-of-town business, but its initials are Crate and Barrel. $3.50, so you don't have to worry about breaking any glasses. So, would you like to have a little sip?
I would. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my,
Delicious.
that's good.
Very
Okay.
good.
Now I get to muddle. Okay, so what I
I'm gonna
have
move yours
is
over here.
I have some simple syrup. And by the way, simple syrup is called that because you can't mess this up. It is equal parts sugar to water. So in this case, it was a half cup of sugar, half cup of water, and you heat it on the stove until it's clear, and there you have it. It's simple syrup. So there you go. I'm gonna put just a jigger of simple syrup in my glass, and I am going to squeeze about a quarter lime in there. What I'm making is a whiskey mojito. So there you go, a little bit of a lime flavor. And then what I like about this is it's going to have that flavor from the mint, which of course, as I mentioned, we're gonna have mint as a pretty big profile of our meat entree with the mint sauce.
Can I ask you if this is really similar to a mojito, only with whiskey instead of rum?
Yeah.
Did you make this up, or is this something
I found it on the onlines, thank you for
Got it.
asking me.
Okay.
But it sounded good, and it seemed like a really good go with this particular cocktail. So that's muddled pretty well, and I'm going to be doing some more muddling in just a little bit for the sauce, but I need to get some ice, and I happen to have an ice dispenser. Could you find me some soda water, honey?
Oh, sure. It's downstairs.
Oh, well, you
I'll
can
go get it. Okay.
I meant to bring that up, and I forgot to. So I am using, where'd I put it? Did you put my whiskey away, dear?
I just set it right there. It's right there on the island.
Honest to God. Okay, so I'm going to use, this is a High West American bourbon whiskey, prairie whiskey if they want to be, and so I'm going to go ahead and just pour a jigger and maybe just a little more in there. And so that is the whiskey part of the mojito. And then when Shannon returns, we will add the soda to it. And then that is your cocktail, our specialty cocktail. Find a little something to swizzle that. And then we are going to get to making the meat, because I think the grill is getting close to being ready. Thank you for getting that for me. And as
My
if everyone
pleasure.
knows, with these open, really, you got to be super careful.
How many
Or
times
you're-
have you scolded me about that?
Yeah, well, this one isn't too
Yeah.
bad. I've had them where they completely shoot all over the place, so. There we go. We'll give that another little swizzle. Whoopsie. Another
I
little
noticed that
swizzle.
I poured 2 glasses of wine, but you just made 1.
Oh, well, we're just going to share this. That's not bad.
I'm not a big whiskey person, that's why I did that.
Well, it's not overpoweringly whiskey-like, though.
But I didn't know you were making a mojito.
Yes, well, that's
That's
what
good.
it's called. Yeah, it's not too bad, is
Very
it?
good,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there you go. Cheers
Yeah.
to you for that. All right. Our next thing to happen is we're going to put these lovely lamb chops on the grill, and they're going to be done in probably about 10 minutes or less. They don't take a long time to cook, especially if you got a good hot fire. So that's what we're doing next. And by the way, you don't have to have a special grill. You can do these on your everyday gas grill or whatever you got. You could even, if you didn't have a grill, you could even do them on a cast iron pan, or you could bake them, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think you want to have a hot surface to give it a sear, and then that way you can keep the middle still a little bit, I would call medium about perfect on these. You don't want to be too medium rare. All right, I'm going to throw them on the grill. All right, so we're ready to put these bad boys on. The fire is nice and hot, and they don't take long to cook because they're just not that big. So we're just going to put them in a little cluster right in the middle there, and flip the lid down. On one of these particular grills, it also acts kind of like an oven, but you control how hot it gets really when you're grilling with the bottom vent. So when it gets up to about 450, 500 degrees, you don't want it any hotter than that. Otherwise, well, you're going to have something pretty crispy. So that's how that works. So we'll let those cook for a little while, and then we'll flip them. So while those chops are cooking, I'm going to make that mint sauce I talked about. Now, normally I would say get mint jelly and use that because it's easy. You just dollop some on your plate and you're good to go. But I'm going to muddle this in the remaining simple syrup because what I'm trying to replicate is that sweetness of the mint jelly. And then I'm just going to put some heat on it in a saucepan, and I'm just going to add a little bit of cornstarch to thicken it a little bit so it'll be not quite so runny. And then we're going to go ahead and have that as our sauce to put over the lamb chops. And again, get mint jelly. It's so much easier than doing this. And I wanted to make this really simple because one of the things that we talked about was we wanted to have something that was a treat for us, right, and our family, but also that's really accessible and easy to make. So generally speaking, lamb chops are a breeze. I mean, seriously, you cook them for about 4 or 5 minutes a side on the grill, done.
Sometimes the biggest challenge is just finding them. Like you
Yeah.
can get them at Sam's Club, and
Yeah.
Hy-Vee a lot of times has them. It's easier to find a lamb roast sometimes.
Right.
But I also heard today that Aldi is a good place to get lamb.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I'm just going to strain all the stuff out of here and pour it in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some heat on there, and then stir in some of that cornstarch to give it a little more thickness.
Do you have cornstarch?
I do, right here. I got about a I got about a teaspoon of cornstarch is all, just to thicken it a little bit. So we'll get going on that, and then in just a minute or two we'll have our sauce. You want to make sure that you try and keep the lumps out of there. You could also use one of those. I don't even know what they're called. It's like a diffuser. You it's basically like a plastic bottle with little agitator in it that you can use to get all the lumps out. But for this process, I'm just going to use a whisk and heat. Generally, that does the job. If it's a little lumpy, it'll be fine. But essentially what that's going to do then, it's not the pretty green that you get with the mint jelly, which is unfortunate, but that'll still have the flavor.
You could use a whole bunch of green food color.
You could do green
wouldn't be
food
very
coloring,
natural.
but that would be very unnatural. So, and you know, and as you know, have heat added to this, of course, it'll thicken the cornstarch, and it'll just give it a little more of a gelatinous feel to it than a runny sauce, and that was the whole reason for adding that. Again, this was a punt. This was not what I was intending to do. I was intending to find some mint jelly, but again, someone's got the corner of on the market for mint jelly, and they're going to sell it for millions of dollars.
That is the hardest thing to find during this time.
Yeah.
I think we're okay. We're more concerned about toilet paper and
Yeah, exactly.
pasta. All right, the next thing I'm going to work on, because we are getting close to the potatoes being done, is some asparagus. And this is the best way to keep your asparagus from the store. I already washed it, but that asparagus still has the original ends on it from the store, and I bought it a few days ago, and so it keeps really fresh when it's in water like this. So that's how I store my asparagus if I'm not going to use it right away. And we break it just where it snaps naturally at the end, and that gets rid of that kind of woody stem. I know some people peel it. I don't prefer that. I like to do the little snap. So that's what I do. Sometimes I do two at once because I'm in a hurry. And there we go. So we already have the oven at 400, and that's why I'm doing this also is when the potatoes are in there, this works really well on the top shelf of the oven. And I put a little lemon flavored olive oil on. I got this with my friend Karen. We went on an adventure to Northfield. They have an olive oil store. But if you can't find lemon olive oil, you can also just use regular olive oil and just squirt a little lemon on. Even real lemon. It doesn't have to be real lemon out of that little plastic lemon. I've done that before. And also, I put real salt. That's what I buy. It's kind of a natural sea salt. I get it in the health food department. And it's just kind of Himalayan salt. It's a nice mixture of different salts. I put more of our restaurant pepper on. Roll it around a little bit. And it's going to go on the top shelf of the oven for about 7-8 minutes. So I think our potatoes are about done, and it's actually been a little over an hour because of the fact that they were cold when I put them in. Normally I try to make sure that they're at room temperature when I put them in. But the way you tell if a baked potato is done is you put your fork in. If it slides in easily, it's done. And these are done. And there's actually 2 more in there. I make 4 at a time usually when there's just 2 of us eating, because the next day it's really good to make fried potatoes for breakfast. And so I'm just waiting for those to get done, but you can tell the skin is kind of crisp. And we'll let those sit a minute, and then I think our asparagus is also done. Bring that out, and Gully is almost ready with the lamb, and then we can plate. Looks good.
Are you ready for these?
Yes. So what we will do is each take a potato.
There we go.
You can take that away.
All right.
Each take a couple of chops.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that smells so good. It smells really charcoal-y and like in the wood charcoal that you're using. It's delicious.
Now, are you going to, okay, we'll get that. You got them?
Plating,
All right.
sure.
Do you want me to do the baked potato?
Yes, so can you tell everybody why baked potatoes are so good
Well,
when we make them around here.
I was out there doing my grilling thing, and I wasn't sure if you talked about the top potato.
I didn't. The secret ingredient.
It is the secret ingredient.
Here we go.
Top potato.
Oh, look at those are hot.
And
Got it.
this is something that we just fell in love with the first time we tried it. And it's definitely a Midwestern thing. I think it's made in Wisconsin.
If you're from here, you know what
You
this
know what
is.
top
The
potato
green
is.
container. And by the way, I think it's really interesting because in the stores now, they have like different flavors, but I like just the basic. But they come in really large containers, and I can't figure out why anyone would need that much top potato. So guess what I think they do with it? They call it a side dish.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm gonna have
I'm good with that.
a hamburger with a side of top
Side
potato.
of top potato. Okay, well, I don't want to let things get too cold here.
So here we go.
Yeah.
We have our butter.
So I do the butter, and I do a very healthy amount of butter on there, or unhealthy.
Real
depending on
butter.
how
We
yeah.
like-
Oh yeah, real butter.
You can go right ahead.
Oh, sorry. Real healthy. There we go. Some top potato. Do we have any S&P?
Yeah, we can grab that later.
All right. So
Yeah.
then you can also
So,
apply your
now,
S&P,
I've
salt and pepper.
tried to make this, like just with sour cream. I have some chives in our garden, some onion powder, some garlic, salt, and it's close.
But no
it's
cigar.
but it's still not.
Oh,
Yeah, 60
forget.
calories per serving. 2 tablespoons. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought.
there you go. Let's make the presentation
Oh,
here.
here we go.
Ta-da.
Show it.
There you have
There we
it,
go.
ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers.
It is, cheers. It is your lamb chops,
Yeah.
asparagus, baked potato. It's a dream. Hey, bon appetit, everybody. And
Yeah.
one thing I want to mention again before we leave, because we believe strongly in supporting the community. And if you text the word community to the number 833-892-4192, or just donate to the COVID-19 Community Response Fund, you're helping out a lot of area nonprofits, and we really appreciate your support. We're doing it too. So thanks for coming to our kitchen. We're Shannon and Gully.
One more thing.
Oh,
We're gonna tag someone else to do this next. So I tag Scott Nelson with MSU Athletics and one of his buddies to do some smoking because he is the awesome most pit master. He smokes meat and Cheez-Its.
Can't
So
wait for
hopefully
that
he'll
one.
make Cheez-Its next too. So hang on, Scott. It's your turn next.
thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.